made it to Friday, Tyler.
Oh, yes.
And it
Joyous
was a shortened week, too.
Even better. Oh, it just keeps getting better and better, Ronnie.
Football is going to be back.
Sure. Hey,
So it's a good weekend.
Today.
Fall is here. Football is back. The Lions play Sunday.
I wouldn't call that good news, but it's there. It's something.
Wouldn't it be something if the Lions make it to the playoffs on a year that you can't have any fans in the stands?
This would be the year that they have just an amazing season and make a long-term run in the playoffs. This would be, of all the years that they could possibly do it, 2020 seems about right.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
That would just be the most 2020 thing that could possibly happen in the entire sport of football.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl, alongside Tyler Keith. And we are hanging out this morning in our studios, 89.3 Lakes FM Civic Center TV studios here in West Bloomfield. So thank you for tuning in with us on this Friday. And obviously, we need to start the day pausing just a little bit to remember back to 9/11. I think we all remember where we were. You were probably...
I was in first grade.
Oh, my God.
I was in first grade. I don't remember a lot before coming home, but I do remember the remainder of the day after I was home watching the news with my mom. Yeah.
I feel really old right now, Tyler. But I was working in North Carolina and was doing actually radio and was in the studio when the planes hit. And I remember when the first one hit, the initial thought that it was possibly an accident. And then when the second plane hit, you knew it wasn't. Yeah. And I remember when they grounded all the planes across the country and walking outside, and it was just quiet. So quiet. Have you made it to New York, to the memorial?
I have not, no. No, I need to go.
You do. Everyone should get to New York and go to the memorial there. It is haunting, but it is also beautiful, the tribute that they have built there to remember so many of the victims, and the firehouse across the street as well. So to all of our first responders and to all of the victims and the families, we think of you today. It'd be nice if we could put our divisive politics aside for one day and show a little love, because I do remember coming out of it, there was so much unity in the United States. I remember when we interviewed Debbie Stabenow, she was saying how she remembered being at the White House and everyone came together. Politics didn't matter. We are Americans. All of us are Americans. We need to come together and love one another, especially today. So see a first responder today. Take time, thank them for their service as they continue to serve our country as well. So, but with that said, it is Friday.
It is.
We're going to get through the day. We're going to get through the day with love, Tyler.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
I can't believe you were in first grade. Oh, my gosh. I feel so...
I can't believe that was 19 years ago. That's what I can't believe.
I know.
I remember it vividly.
Wow. Yeah, that is... first grade. Okay, let's get to the headlines here. Let's move past how young Tyler is and how old I am right now. Hey, head over to civiccentertv.com and you can check out the latest headlines that we post each and every morning. Here's some good news for those with loved ones in the nursing homes. Visitation is going to be expanding to allow outdoor visits starting next week. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services director signed the order yesterday. So it's going to affect the residents in several types of the long-term care facilities, including nursing homes, independent living facilities, and assisted living facilities. Visitors have been severely restricted, if not barred altogether, at many of the facilities throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. The order goes into effect Tuesday. It was based on the recommendation of the state's Nursing Homes Task Force. So something coming out of that already off of their recommendations. I know this has been an extremely hard time for so many people that have loved ones in the nursing homes. So that one-on-one, face-to-face touch. And of course, some facilities have already been allowing it. It depends on the place, but I think this is going to mean a lot for so many of the families, Tyler.
It is, and they've been waiting for a very long time to be able to see their loved ones in person, and that interaction is so much different than virtual or than over the phone. And for these people that have been in these nursing homes, especially in nursing homes where there have been an influx of COVID-19 cases, and it's a scary environment for these seniors and these people in a tough time in their health, this is such a huge step forward for them and such a positive news for those people that have been suffering on multiple levels throughout this pandemic.
Also on CivicCenterTV.com, you heard the governor announce this program yesterday here on the Megacast. About 625,000 frontline workers are eligible for tuition-free college under a program created by the governor. It's called Futures for Frontliners. $24 million program is going to be financed through the Federal CARES Act funding. It's going to help people obtain technician certificates, associate degrees, and bachelor degrees. To be able to be eligible for the program, you have to be a Michigan resident and have worked in an essential industry outside of your home from April to June. And you also can't already have an associate's or a bachelor's degree. So for people, this is a good opportunity for them, especially if they want to continue on in their career or even possibly make a career change.
Yeah, and it's so important for us to provide support to those who have been on the front lines, who have been fighting through this day in and day out, especially early on in those really tough times from March to really May, in the thick of the pandemic response in the state of Michigan, and to provide these people with the ability to move up in society, to pursue their dreams, whether it be in healthcare or not, as a thank you for the service that they've provided to our communities, to our state, and to the country as we've all been working together through this challenging time in our history.
So we are continuing to track the COVID-19 numbers. We've lost 17 more people to the virus, and 924 more people have been tested positive for COVID-19. That's according to Thursday's update from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Those numbers come out around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. 9 of the deaths were found in a regular records review to see if the coronavirus was a factor into someone's death. The state's totals are now 6,569 confirmed deaths and about 109,519 confirmed cases. But some good news here, the state has a positivity rate of 3.06%. So the positivity rate is going down. The governor has said that if we can get it below that 3% number, we can move into phase 5, which would be a good thing to happen. And I will say, while we do have so many, I think she said there's about 30 to 33,000 people being tested each day here in the state of Michigan. And when you look at those numbers and you take into consideration so many college students are back on campuses, that positivity rate is some good news. And hopefully these numbers will be steady, plateau, and decline, which is going to be interesting though, Tyler, because we're going to be going, once it gets colder, we're going to be back into enclosed spaces.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where these numbers go. They very much have leveled off. They're starting to decrease, especially the positivity rate, which is such a key metric in all decision making on the state level regarding COVID-19. But kids are fully back in school. They're not even 2 weeks into the school year with in-person learning or hybrid learning. You have people that have been going back to work more often now than before, as things have leveled off a little bit. You're going to have situations where the weather gets colder, people are going to stay inside more, and that's going to create a situation where they're in a situation that's a little bit more likely to spread the virus. So we're still a ways away from really knowing where we're at, but it looks like, as of now, we're headed in the right direction.
Better than where we were in March and April, and
oh, yeah.
So we'll take it.
Yes,
definitely we'll take it. So hey, we have a lot of good guests for you here this Friday on the Oakland County Megacast. We're going to be checking in with the owner over at M1 Concourse. That is such a cool place. I drive by it all the time. I haven't actually been to an event there, but I do drive by it a lot, and it's so good what they have done over there, especially because that was just an empty lot. So some good news, and it's expanding, and we'll be talking to the owner, Jordan, about that. Debbie Binder, of course, West Bloomfield Township Clerk. We'll check in with her. New numbers are coming out about how many people now are registered to vote absentee here in the state of Michigan. And so those numbers are going to be huge going in to the November election. We'll check in with the mayor of Troy, see how things are going over there, and also Michael Pierce. He's the editor-in-chief at the Oakland Post, the student-run newspaper over there at Oakland University.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting show. A lot to talk about, a lot of different interesting topics to discuss with a number of guests today. It'll be a really interesting Friday edition of the Oakland County Megacast.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, let's check in with Jordan and see how things are cruising along over there at the M1 Concourse.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonae Caldoon. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
The need for speed, Tyler.
Oh yeah, it's always there.
So many people have the need for speed, and the good thing about that is we have one of the coolest places right here in Oakland County for people who like to put the pedal to the metal, or the pedal to the metal. Yeah, that's the saying.
That's it.
When they want to go fast, the one and only place to be able to do it right here, M1 Concourse. Let's bring in the owner, Jordan Zlotoff, with us here on the Megacast. Good morning. Happy Friday to you.
Good morning. Happy Friday. Thank you for having me.
For people who don't know about the M1 Concourse, explain exactly what it is. And this concept is awesome.
Well, thank you very much. And yeah, we want to help people meet that need for speed. So for those who don't know, we like to describe ourselves as the ultimate automotive enthusiast playground. So we have a 1.5 mile performance road course here at M1 Concourse. We're in Pontiac, Michigan. We're actually built on the site of a former General Motors facility right at the corners of Woodward and South Boulevard. So we're 87 acres. We have this 1.5 mile track, and we're actually now the world's largest private garage community. So when people hear this term garages, yes, it's a place to store cars, but folks actually build a second floor loft and actually turn these spaces into private entertainment suites. So some folks call them garage mahals, or the ultimate man caves, or in the case of some of our female owners, diva dens. But They are really like private entertainment suites because they overlook the track and all the motorsports activities. So instead of having a box suite that you might have at Ford Field or Little Caesars Arena that's overlooking a football game or basketball game, you can actually build these private suites inside your garage that are overlooking a Porsche or Ferrari driving around the track. And we operate our own private track club. So just like a country club for golf has a private membership, we have a private membership for those that want to drive their cars fast. So if you have that Mustang or Lamborghini or McLaren or a tricked out Camaro and you need a place to really push it to the envelope safely, we provide that experience. And we do coaching, instruction. We have various activities that we do to get folks to learn how to actually drive their car and the best practices of high-speed performance driving. And then we do high-end corporate and large-scale public events. So we recently did the big photo shoot and release for the Ford Mustang Mach-1. So if your listeners go back and look at the release of that it was about 4 to 6 weeks ago. All those photos you see are from the Champion Motor Speedway, which is the name of our performance track, and you'll see the backdrop of all of our garages in those photos. And then we also host these very large public events. We have cars and coffee events, and we haven't done as many of them this year because of COVID and safety precautions, but we have one of the largest cars and coffee events in the country that brings out anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 people, anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 cars that you park all over the track. We have a huge annual fireworks show. And then, of course, we're the home to Roadkill Nights, which is this incredible drag racing competition that we actually set up on Woodward Avenue. We shut down the street, and we do legal, sanctioned eighth of a mile drag racing. It's put on by Motor Trend. It's sponsored by Dodge, and is just a ton of fun. We bring out close to 40,000 people for that event. So there's a lot of things going on at M1 between the garages, the club, our corporate events, the public events. And we're actually building more garages right now. So even though we're the world's largest private garage community, we're building and selling an additional 80 units. We're about 40% sold out right now. So that's going on. And then I'm happy to get into the announcement we made just last week with the groundbreaking of this incredible new event center and restaurant. So I know that was a lot, but just trying to give you and your listeners a big overview of what we are here at M1. But we're a lot of things rolled up into one. So I just say that we're the ultimate playground for people that love cars.
That is so cool. So how does it work? I know the garages are private. Is it open to the public in any arena as well?
So yes, so we're open to the public for the various events that we put on. So for things like Cars and Coffee, the fireworks show, the Roadkill Nights drag racing event, those are public events where we invite the public in, and they can join us. Some of those events are free. Some of them have a price of admission. The restaurant, which we're going to be building and is set to open in September of 2021, will be our first permanent public-facing component to the facility. So the public will actually be able to come in 7 days a week. You can have a burger and a beer, and we actually have a second floor roof deck that'll be overlooking the track. The restaurant will be sitting right in pit lane. You'll be able to experience all the sights and sounds. And so hearing the exhaust, feeling the heat of the engine, and we'll be inviting the public in to partake in the activities of M1 Concourse on a daily basis.
So Jordan, any hesitation to build a new restaurant during this time right now?
So I think everyone in the entertainment world and restaurant world has had a lot of pause and just thinking about how do we keep the public safe, how do we keep staff safe. Fortunately for us, we have a little bit of runway in that we're breaking ground right now, but we have at least a year until we're open. So we're paying very close attention to the best practices that we're seeing implemented around the state, around the country for restaurants. We're fortunate that this restaurant will also feature a very large patio space outdoors on the first level and also on the rooftop upstairs. So having that outdoor space will be very helpful so patrons can sit outside. I can also tell you there's a very large indoor space. So if we're still in the same climate we are now, a year from today, we'll be able to space out the different diners around the restaurant so we can have some safe distancing. But we're very hopeful that within a year we'll have some solutions so that we're able to at least start to get back to some sense of normalcy that we had a year ago. So, you know, knock on wood or keep our fingers crossed that our public health officials and research experts will have some solutions for us. But if we're still in that same state, we'll be prepared to implement best practices for safety and for COVID with respect to a dining experience.
So Jordan, why this particular project? What does this add to the attraction of M1 Concourse in a general sense and in a sense to those that are members of the concourse that wasn't already there in place before?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was saying, we're the home of many of these corporate events, so vehicle launches and unveilings, marketing events, photo shoots, and commercials. We do a lot of high-end client entertainment, both for the automotive industry and the non-automotive groups. We currently right now do not have an indoor climatized space that can host these events. We operate out of a big banquet tent, which works for 3 seasons out of the year, but as you can imagine, it has some limitations. So for us to really host world-class experiences and deliver first-rate events, we need a conference space, an indoor event center that can really host these type of high-end events and deliver the type of experience that our clients expect. So that's the reason for building this event space and conference space. The restaurant we had always intended as being a part of the master plan and the development for a couple of reasons. One, to serve the garage community and our garage owners and the club members. Also to provide on-site banquet and catering to the events that were happening here. And then thirdly, to really open us up to the public where we can have everyone in on a daily basis for smaller public events. And we're also, the public can come in and just be patrons of the restaurant. So I think our new tagline might be Dream Cruise every day when we can finally welcome everyone in here on a daily basis.
You know, it really is a good concept as well. And there aren't many restaurants over in that area. So I think it will be hugely successful as well. Any other plans to expand the track at all in the future?
So we get asked that question a lot. Actually expanding the track is probably off the table. It's very difficult to do. We're also landlocked on this 87 acres. So we're really wedged in between Woodward Avenue and Franklin Road. So it's unlikely we're going to be able to expand the track. The ability for us to do some potentially additional garages, potentially add things like a small go-karting track or some other attractions or amenities are there. We're also exploring things like an off-road course. So those are some ideas that we're currently considering and doing due diligence on, but nothing is definitive at the moment. We're very committed to completing this next phase of garages, of private garage condos, building the event center and the restaurant. And we're only going to have a handful of acres left to really develop, and we're going to see what makes the most logical sense when we complete this phase of construction.
I will say an off-road course, Jeep owners would love something like that. So definitely would be popular, and I think it would go over well if you ever do build something like that. What have you had to change during COVID-19? And anything for the better that you think you'll continue on after this is over?
Absolutely. So I think like all businesses, we've really had to rethink our operations procedures and really make sure things are clean, sanitized, and safe for not only our staff, but our members and our participants through all of our events. So we've scaled back virtually all of our large events. Right now, the state guidelines prohibit large events over a certain number. Because we're used to hosting several thousand people here on the site throughout the year, we've really had to cut back, or we've really eliminated the big public events that we're used to hosting. So it was unfortunate, but I think it was the right move and a necessary one. We still are operating our private track club, but we have very safe practices. So that's, again, sanitization, face masks, distancing, all types of procedures that I'm sure you and your listeners are now familiar with, just, from going to the grocery store or going to the drugstore, things that have now become pretty commonplace. I can tell you we'll likely be implementing a lot of those even after COVID, just in terms of how we sanitize our vehicles and workstations and really try to minimize risks for transmission of sickness or infection. So really making sure if somebody's feeling sick, they're staying home. Fortunately, we haven't had anyone on our staff get sick during COVID, so it hasn't been a risk for us. But no, I see us continuing a handful of those practices, throughout this, the next 6 months and potentially beyond COVID as well.
Jordan Zlotoff with us. He's the CEO of M1 Concourse, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. In terms of keeping people engaged in what is still going on at M1 Concourse while maintaining distance and trying to avoid having more people than is necessary on site like everybody else is doing, what is M1 Concourse providing to its patrons in order to allow them to continue to engage with those activities, but do so at a safe distance?
Yeah, so we've been very fortunate that we've been able to keep both the garage community and the motorsports club operating. I know a lot of businesses haven't been so fortunate that they've had to shut down just completely. So putting in safe practices for these activities. I can tell you we also do some social distancing events. We did kind of a social distance pizza party for the garage community and some other food and drink events. We've really been boosting up the number of hours that we actually provide to the motorsports club. We found that our usage rate has gone up over the past 6 months just because folks have not been able to travel. They're working from home. Maybe they just want to escape from the house for a few hours. So we've seen a huge amount of participation from our membership. So we've increased the number of available hours on the track, and we've also just increased the number of activities. So we provide coaching sessions. We have an incredible guest instructor that comes to M1 once a month. His name's Johnny O'Connell. He's the most accomplished GM factory driver. He's raced at Le Mans over 15 times. He's been a winner there a number of times. So we offer instructional modules for our members. So these are all ways that we engage our core audience, our members and our ownership group, to really bring them out and offer different value add services or just different ways to engage M1 Concourse during this period when I think everyone's just looking for things to do right now because the options are so limited and what we're used to doing in the fall is just not there. So we're really trying to make it a special experience for our garage owners and club members during this time.
And it's right in our backyard as well. Jordan, so I know that your garages are for purchase. Do you rent space out as well?
We rent space out for private parties, different events and activations. We don't actually rent the garages themselves. So for those that are interested, we sell them just like a condo. We're essentially a master deeded condo community, and there's an association which controls the garages for the maintenance and security and snow removal. So for those that just want to do an event at M1 Concourse, we have spaces that we rent out. But for those that are looking to join the motorsports club, store cars here, we sell the condos or sell the garages just like a condo, and you own it like a piece of real estate, and it usually holds or appreciates value. Has been the case. We've been very fortunate that the garages here have appreciated pretty significantly in value over the past 4 years, and we're hoping that trend continues. What
does one go for? You know I had to ask that, right?
So our smallest garages start at 560 square feet. It's a $165,000 garage. It goes all the way up to, 700 square feet, which is around $215K. And then we go up to 1,200 and 2,400 square feet. And we can get over $500,000 for some of the garages if you're looking to hold 12, 15, 20 cars or even bigger. We're able to combine spaces and make them as large as we need for some of our clients. But all of our garages are 2.5 stories tall, so you can build in that second floor loft. And put in your kitchen, bar, bathroom, entertainment center, racing simulator, golf simulator. Some folks want to build this out again to be the ultimate garage mahal. But some folks keep it pretty simple. They put down an epoxy floor. They've got a workshop and some tools, and this is the place they come to work on their car, tune it, modify it, and drive it on the track. They don't necessarily need the ultimate entertainment suite. For them, it's a functional garage. So not everyone is a mega millionaire that has super ultimate cars. We've got a lot of folks that buy a garage to work on them and just be a part of the community and enjoy the track.
Jordan Zlotoff with us. He's the owner of M1 Concourse. How did you even come up with this concept?
So we partnered with an original founder and CEO. So my father and uncle, who are a part of the development team, found this original founder who had the idea that we just needed a venue in Metro Detroit to meet the need of a handful of different audiences. The first one was folks who are automotive enthusiasts, which we have a huge number of here in Metro Detroit. Motorsports is woven into the DNA of anyone from the Detroit area. And we have a lot of car collectors that just don't have space to store their vehicles. Or they can store them, but they don't want it off-site in the U-Haul facility where it's difficult to access, or a car barn, that they maybe have to build up north. They want it in a place that's accessible. There's a place that they can drive it. And they're going to be around a community of like-minded enthusiasts. So we realized there was a need. The concept of building sort of a garage community is not new. There's a handful around the country. The idea of incorporating a track is pretty novel. That concept's only come to light in the last decade or last 15 years. And then the idea of really utilizing it as a public space and corporate entertainment venue was completely innovative. So we just saw a big need in Metro Detroit for a space to really celebrate all things automotive. When folks come to the Motor City and say, show me what is the spirit of Detroit, show me this this motorsport passion that's supposedly here, there's only a handful of places you can really take guests from out of town, and none of them really feature on-track performance driving. So we want to be that space where when folks come in from out of town, you say, tell me what captures the spirit of Detroit. You can take them to M1 Concourse, and folks will immediately understand.
It is a great concept, and you're right. We are the Motor City, and cars are in our DNA for so many people, and you're filling that void and that need. And I would imagine if I'm working on my car, I need a wrench, I can just go to the person right next door, right?
Absolutely. It's a very collaborative community, and, we have chat forums and Facebook groups, so when folks need a special kind of wrench, they can post it, or, who wants to help me work on this Corvette today, or who wants to join me on the track at 5 o'clock, or join me for tacos after the track activity. We're like a country club for folks that, maybe don't like traditional country clubs.
Jordan, we need to wrap up here with you on the Oakland County Megacast, but before I let you go, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who has the coolest garage out there?
Well, I can't show any favoritism, but I'll tell your listeners that if you go to m1concourse.com or follow us on Facebook or Instagram at M1 Concourse, you will see some unbelievable garages. We post a lot of photos up there, and you will see some things that truly blow your mind. Sometimes we like to joke that we're like the MTV Cribs of private garages. So please check us out on those spaces. We'd love to have you follow us on those social media handles.
Jordan, thank you so much. I will say you guys have some amazing videos on your website as well. So Jordan Zlotoff with us, owner of M1 Concourse, located in Pontiac, right at the corner of Woodward and South Avenue. Go check them out. It's so cool to have them in our own backyard. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to chat with our favorite township clerk. Debbie Binder will be joining us. You're listening to the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keith. And I am hitting the wrong buttons here, Tyler.
There you go. There you go.
Again, this is the Oakland County Megacast, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. We work to bring you longer, in-depth interviews with newsmakers throughout the greater Oakland County and beyond. You can always catch us on civiccentertv.com, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Catch us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 FM The Biff. And today you can also get us on West Bloomfield Township's Facebook page, and we always appreciate them for allowing us to live stream the Oakland County Megacast on their Facebook page. So thank you to them, and hello to all of their friends and followers as well. Let's bring in Debbie Binder. She is the Township Clerk here in West Bloomfield. Debbie, you're recovered from August and on to November.
We are full steam ahead into November right now, so the recovery was short-lived.
Where do things stand? Still seeing an increase in number of people interested in voting by mail?
Absolutely. We already are preparing to send out, just based on what we have in now, over 24,000 absentee ballots. So the numbers are definitely trending upward, and our very realistic forecasting puts us at processing over 30,000, but between 32 and 36,000 absentee ballots, and we just had set a record at 16,783. So we are seeing a huge increase. You know, the reason I think I had spoken with you before, we had a 77% absentee turnout in the last election in August. However, the turnout for the election was only 40%. We steadily have a 75% turnout in a presidential election. We're looking at between 80 and 85%. Possibly up to 90% turnout for this. If we apply the same percentage of absentee, we're looking between 32 and 36,000 absentee ballots. It's going to be a busy year in the clerk's office.
And we're excited that more people are actually voting and exercising that right to do so. However, are you worried about the ability to process so many of those absentee votes?
Well, we just found out that our ballot's going to be 2 pages, it's looking like, which means it will be double. So we are going to have to figure out some precautionary steps to make sure we can get everything done. If we end up with a 2-page ballot, that will definitely affect our reporting. We had things in pretty good shape before that. So am I worried? I'm worried about things like the mail, that we did have delays last time. So really what's important for us now is voter education and getting the word out to people to mail that ballot back early. Don't wait till last minute. We received 20% or 3,400 of our absentee ballots we mailed out in August on election day in the drop box. So we're trying to encourage people to both register and return their ballot early if they can this time. Plan ahead. It will save you time and it will make it easier on your clerk's offices that absolutely have a tremendous demand. As I've said to you before, I know I said running an election is a lot of work. It's challenging. Running an election with historic numbers is even more challenging. And running an election with historic numbers in the midst of a global pandemic is a whole different layer. So any support people can give by voting early, not voting early, turning in their ballot early. Nothing is counted until election day. But turning in their ballot early and making sure if they need to register that they do so ahead of time. Again, they have the right to vote or to register on the same day, but it'll help us out a lot if they're prepared and take care of turning in their ballot and registering early.
Debbie Binder with us. She is the West Bloomfield Township Clerk joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Debbie, we previously have had Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson on the program with us, and she referred to November's election not as election day, but more so as election week. With the influx of absentee ballots being counted in West Bloomfield and in other communities as well, do you expect there to be a delay in delivering the unofficial results of the election? And should we expect to not really know for sure what the results were until Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of election week rather than Tuesday night as we've been accustomed to in recent elections?
I would hope, our goal is still to provide those election results on Tuesday evening late. Even this last minute news as of this morning with having a 3-page ballot has changed things, that we were going to have to figure out how to process that many that quickly. I think you will see later results this time because all of your clerks are tasked with doing double to triple the number of absentee ballots they've ever processed. And the polls are going to be, they won't be as busy, but I don't believe they will be as quiet as they were in August either. So we will see activity in the polls, in the precincts. Obviously, those hours stay the same, but I do think we will take time to process those absent voter ballots. I have a goal of having it done that Tuesday night, but I think that if we're being realistic, there's a lot that's being asked of the local clerks. And some of the legislation that we are awaiting, and I believe that Secretary Benson had discussed that, some of the legislation that we're waiting for that's not moving forward that would allow us an extra day ahead of time to open the envelopes to at least get that part done and would help expedite on election day when they were being processed. But that legislation has not been moving, and that is definitely going to challenge your local clerks who are tasked with the monumentous job of processing a historical number of absentee ballots. I think that what you do have is we joke local clerks, we're the backbone of democracy and we make it happen, and you're going to see every one of us doing our best to make it happen. But there is a reality of the number of ballots we are going to see back, and hopefully things will, again, when they come in earlier, Tyler, on the day that we get them, it's not just get it in the ballot and take it over to the absent voter counting board. You have to scan it into the state database, the qualified voter file. Then you have to verify the signature, pull the application, and take it, process it incoming before it goes over to be counted. So when 20% of those came in on election day, it was a big task just to get them prepared to go over there to be counted. So the more that we can encourage people to engage ahead of time, the easier it's going to make it on all of our local clerks. And that's the message. I know one of the things they're looking into doing is getting a message out for Mail It Back Monday on October 19th to kind of have that as a deadline of when people send back their absentee ballots so that that we know that we will get it in time, that it has to arrive in Michigan. I always want to remind voters in Michigan, it has to arrive by election day at 8 p.m. at this point. There is a legal challenge, but it has not been, there's been no change at this point. Right now, Michigan law requires that ballot to be received by 8 p.m. So October 19th, I think, is a good deadline to have in mind to get that ballot in the mail. We'll be mailing them out on September 25th or right around there. We have to prepare over 24,000 to go, and we don't get them until September 19th. And from there, we have to test them on each machine, assign, prepare, stuff them, and send them. So our goal is to do that Friday morning, the 25th. What we've been telling people is to, if they don't get their ballot by mid-October, to give our office a call. Because if the ballot doesn't arrive, we can spoil the ballot that you were issued and issue you a new one. But we know the mail's delayed, so we'd like to give it sufficient time to arrive. If you are a voter who can't get up here to spoil your ballot, you may want to call us quicker than that, because you do want to allow time for the ballot to get physically mailed to you and for you to physically mail your ballot back. But just important messages. And another message I try to always relay is that there's a lot of well-intentioned focus on telling people to return their ballots to the drop boxes at town hall or the clerk's office, and that's great advice. And we definitely encourage anybody who is able to do that, and we tell them on the phone and when they come to the counter, we recommend, if possible, returning them to your clerk's office or your drop box. But we also need people to remember we have a large population of people. We have our military and overseas voters, college students, our snowbirds, and seniors who are in senior housing who have to rely on the mail and don't have the ability to get to town hall. So we need to make sure that they're getting that message to turn their ballots in early to allow the mail time to get it back to town hall by 8 p.m. on election day.
So Debbie, just to get the timeline down, September 25th is when people can actually start casting their ballot then, correct?
Well, we will mail them out on the 25th, and they should be available at the counter. In an emergency situation, we would be able to provide one on the 24th, but they will be available routinely at the counter on the 28th on that Monday. So a voter can also, who come to the counter, fill out an application here and get their ballot and take it with them. So the ones that go in the mail, I'd be watching my mailbox probably about a week. I would love to say it would be 2 days, which is what it should be. But I would say I'd watch for the week or two after that when we mail them out on the 25th. And they will be available at the counter starting on the 24th if needed. But if we can give us till the 28th, just because of the volume of absentee ballots we're going to be processing, would be appreciated. So absentee voting will technically start as soon as those ballots arrive in people's mailboxes or people get them at the window. But when I say absentee voting will start, I also want to qualify those ballots are not counted or opened until Election Day at this point.
So what happens if I do vote absentee, but then maybe a person I voted for dropped out of the race? Can I cast a new ballot then?
Yes, absolutely. So what you can do if you were to have any kind of, where somebody dropped out of the race or there was a reason you needed to change your ballot, you can spoil the ballot you were issued up to 4 p.m. the day before the election on Monday, and then we would reissue you a new one. Now, there's a little bit different process in terms of when we can last mail them out, and this is all defined by election law. You would have to sign an affidavit that we have at our office. You can also get it online, or you could just write a letter that I would like to spoil my ballot. What we need is a hand signature to verify the signature. We would spoil the ballot you were issued and issue you a new one. We cannot do that by mail after 2 p.m. on the Saturday before the election. But you can come to Town Hall on Monday and spoil that ballot and get a new one. I do want to point out, as I did say Saturday, we are open the Saturday before every election from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. for absentee voting. And this year we are going to expand that to the 2 Saturdays before that. So anybody who needs to get in here on a Saturday can come in on Saturday, October 17th or Saturday, October 24th from 9 to 12. Will be open for absentee voting. And then on Halloween, which is that Saturday, we're required by law to have weekend hours that weekend. Will be open from 8 to 4 for absentee voting. I'm sure that it will be busy. We're hoping to kind of encourage that early participation and engagement by offering those additional 2 Saturday hours. So you can, back to what you had asked though, is you can come and spoil that ballot and get a new one. We would spoil the one you were issued and would issue you a new one if you had to change your vote. And that is a right every voter has had. It's not something that's new, and it is available by state law until 4 p.m. the Monday evening before the election.
Debbie Binder with us on the Megacast, West Bloomfield Township Clerk. I know you can't start counting the ballots until Election Day, but does that start like at 12:01 a.m. or do you have to wait until the polls actually open?
7 a.m. is when you can start counting the ballots at this point. There is legislation that Ruth Johnson, previous Secretary of State, now Senator, has been proposing and kind of trying to push through the system to allow clerks to open the envelopes the day before, secure the ballots in a bag and start counting them physically on Election Day starting at 7 a.m. But so far that legislation has stalled. Clerks are working collectively to try to encourage it because we do need it with the number of ballots we're going to have to process. But no, you cannot start processing ballots until 7 a.m. on Election Day.
West Bloomfield Township Clerk Debbie Binder with us today. The Township Clerk's office, also our Facebook partner on today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Debbie, let's talk a little bit about election workers, because you are expecting a 75% turnout, which is relatively normal for West Bloomfield Township, and other communities are expecting similar regular turnout for presidential elections as well, with the constraints in place with COVID-19, with the increased expectation for absentee votes. Does that require more people now that are going to be needed for these clerks' offices to serve as election workers, particularly for processing these absentee votes?
Yes, we absolutely need more election workers, and I am pleased to say that our efforts since the primary, our big focus has been on recruiting election workers, and we're up over 60 election workers through putting an ad in the Beacon every week. We've placed an ad. We've sent out add to our listserv to get people engaged, and we've done a lot with our social media because it is important. We needed, from looking at where we were in August, we ended up going through our reserves. As people were dropping out, I was recruiting new people up to the day before the election. I don't want to have to do that this time. We'll be too busy. So we have been focusing heavily on recruiting for the last few weeks. I needed to be up at least 20 to 30 more people from August for this election, and I needed to increase the size of my database 200 to 300 so we have strong reserves for when people aren't able to come on that day. So I'm happy to say that I'm encouraged by the fact that I have 60 new voters, or 60 new election workers, but we still need more. So if anybody in your listening audience is interested, we're still looking for more election workers, and people do not have to be a West Bloomfield resident, and they have to be 16 years of age and older. And it is a paid position. I won't say it pays great per hour. It does pay $165 for election day. Plus the county is chipping in an additional $50 for November. And then it's $20 for each of two trainings, one or two trainings, depending on what position you're in. But it's a tremendous experience in multiple ways. For some of our younger people too, it's especially a great experience in terms of it being a wonderful resume or college app job. But what we have is a lot of people who come year after year, and I always tell people, everyone complains and everyone comes back. They complain it's a long day, and it is. I won't lie, it's a long day. But you really do feel like you're part of something big and part of something rewarding, so they all come back and participate. So anyone who's ever wanted to get involved and feel like you're part of something big, this is a wonderful opportunity to do it, as well as a great way to be reassured about the process of what an absentee ballot goes through. Or if you're in a precinct, you'd be very encouraged also and reassured by the process that voting, that all of the checks in place for voting and all of the things that people don't realize or thought of, that it isn't just take a box, put it out on the counter and take the ballots and count them. There's a lot involved in running the election, in preparation on election day, and in follow-up. It's always reassuring and enlightening to people who get involved. So I can't encourage people enough to if you're looking for a way to get involved in this election. And let me tell you that there are a lot of people looking for a way to get involved in this election. We have seen more engagement than we have seen in a long time. A great way to get involved is to work in a polling location or in the absent voter counting board. The rewards are immeasurable.
So Debbie, I know you said it's a long day. What are the hours? Are they required to be there until that last vote is counted?
Well, if I tell them that, we won't get any right now. We don't want to discourage them before we get them. If you're in a precinct, you start at 6 a.m. and you go till, I would say, sometime between 8:30 and 10, and that you do get 2 one-hour breaks in a precinct. When you're in the absent voter counting board, it is a sequestered board, so you are not allowed to take those breaks. However, you do get breaks within the day, and we run around with a snack cart like Delta Airlines, and we feed people. And that actually is my favorite job, running the snack cart. But it starts at 7 a.m. for the AV counting board, and it realistically is the earliest you would be out of there is 10 and probably closer to midnight. Again, we're waiting on some other legislation, and we're also waiting on an interpretation that we've heard from Secretary Benson on the law as it stands, on whether we can work something out to have shifts in there. So we are exploring that right now, because, as I know I had mentioned once before, that it sounds great, well, we'll wait for those results. The reality is we have human beings that are in there. We're going to have an absent voter counting board between 100 and 125 people. So to keep those people for 24, 36 hours is inhumane. So we are looking at options to make sure that doesn't happen. But someone working the AV counting board does need to know it is a long day. You're looking probably at midnight. But again, people come back year after year because they do feel like they're part of something so important and making a difference. So if someone's looking to do that, it's a great way. And we need you. We really do. We need to make sure that even if we don't need more for this election, which we do, that we have a database that will keep us going for a long time to come. But we still do need people for this election. We have to staff precincts and kind of gauge where the absent voter numbers are coming in. As we start seeing the ballots come in, then we're going to look at how many are going to be forecast it. We're going to forecast for the precincts so that we're sufficiently staffed in the precincts as well. So the more of people we have to work with, the better off we are in terms of making sure everyone's needs can get met and their ballots can be cast and everyone's voice is heard on election day.
Debbie Binder with us. She is the West Bloomfield Township Clerk joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. So in terms of working as an election worker, a lot of people are inspired by being able to help their community, participate in the election process, fulfill another one of their civic duties. But some people are, especially in a pandemic, are wondering, well, what can I gain from being an election worker? And you mentioned that it looks great on the resume and it's a interesting opportunity for people. What kind of skills can people develop from being an election worker that maybe they can use in their job search as they're hopefully looking for work coming out of this pandemic, or just in their everyday life?
Well, working as an election worker, one of the things I always tell people also is, and I encourage the public to be understanding, these are people who have a job that requires precision and accuracy, yet they get to practice it maybe once, twice, and maybe 3 times a year. So it's not something that they're having a lot of experience with. We rely on that training to compensate for what they aren't getting in experience. There are a lot of skills that are utilized when you're working in a polling location, or even when you're working in the AV County Board. One is it strongly supports your interpersonal skills. You're engaging with the public if you're in a precinct, and you're engaging as part of a team if you're in the Absent Voter Counting Board. A lot of the work in that Absent Voter Counting Board is actually done in teams, most of it and much of it in the polling location. So you're learning to work as part of a team in a job that requires accuracy, precision, accountability, and just paying attention to detail. So I think there's a lot of skills that are encouraged by getting involved in being an election worker. And I think that if you were doing your resume or your college app, there really are some strong skill words that you could include as part of your resume that even when you wrote it down, you'd say, wow, I didn't realize I did all that. It is an involved process that you use a lot of skills.
So Debbie, what is the training, and can people do that virtually now?
We offered virtual last time. Well, we didn't offer. We actually offered for people to participate in the county. And we're preparing, and actually Civic Center TV has been extremely helpful in making sure that we can be prepared to have a virtual version if we need to go that route. The feedback has mostly been that people do prefer to have the hands-on and coming in and having the training in person. However, we do recognize that we don't know where we'll be with COVID at the point that we're training, so we want to make sure that we have secure an option ready to go if needed, as well as even for reinforcement. I have had quite a few inspectors say to me, again, we rely on training to give them a job that requires precision and accuracy. They would love to come to the trainings 2 or 3 times. So by having something that we've been working with you guys to create, they'll be able to watch that after if they need more support before Election Day. And we have, I feel very lucky. We have such a committed group of people working election workers, working on elections, that they do take it seriously and they do come in and practice, and they would engage watching that video over again. Actually, as I say that about our election workers, I do want to mention that next Monday night at our board meeting, we will be honoring our election workers as well as our polling locations with a resolution at the board. Actually, the board will be considering it. But we are very grateful for our election workers, and I don't want to actually miss saying that we are extremely grateful for our polling locations. I tell people all the time, we need our polling locations a lot more than they need us. We are work for them. They have to bring people in early. They have to keep people late. They have to clean up. It's really a commitment for them that they're doing to be a community partner and support their community. We are extremely grateful for that. We have few options that we can use as a polling location. It has to be a public building or a nonprofit, and it has to clearly have sufficient parking, and it does have to be within the jurisdiction. So our choices are often few. We have schools and churches and synagogues and temples and different locations that have been offering their space to us year after year after year, as well as some of our parks building and some of our community assets. But we don't have a lot of choices. So without people making those polling locations available to us and our poll workers who are willing to come in and make it so that we can conduct that election, it would be impossible. So we will be honoring all of those people, our polling locations and our election workers, on Monday. My hope was to be, we originally had this on the agenda for March, but when COVID hit and we went virtual, I was hoping to wait until we were going to be able to have an in-person and have people come into town hall for that meeting. But it looks like that's not going to happen in the immediate future. So we decided to bring it back and just let our people know, our people and our locations know how much we appreciate all that they do to help us run successful elections. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do it, and we know that.
So, Debbie, just a couple more minutes here with you on the Oakland County Megacast. If someone is considering, becoming a poll worker, can they pick if they want to do the precinct versus counting the absentees, and do they get paid that day?
No, they get paid. They're paid through our payroll department, so they're paid. It depends if it could be a week or two later on the township payroll schedule. But yes, they do. We do take requests. One of the things we always ask people, and when I'm recruiting somebody, I say, can you be away from your phone for the whole day? And I don't say that judgmentally because I couldn't. But to be in the AV counting board, you are away from your phone. It is sequestered, so you can't have any electronics that access outside information. So from 7 a.m. until after 8 p.m., you would not be able to have a phone. So we always kind of let people know that, right away. The AV counting board is where we have needed more people lately just because of the sheer volume. The AV counting board is a little bit more sedentary. So somebody who's looking for something more sedentary may prefer that. And it's also a controlled environment because we have an AV counting board and you don't have the public coming in. So we do with COVID, we take steps to take temperatures and screen them when they arrive in the morning, and we provide masks and shields and copious amounts of hand sanitizer to make it as safe of an area as we can, as well as putting up these porta walls to separate the air, to create physical barriers. So if someone works the AV counting board, it is a more controlled environment, where if they're in the precinct, you do have the public coming in to vote. So it's a little bit less controlled, a little bit more active, and you do get 2 1-hour breaks. So it kind of depends what the specific voter's looking for and what level of engagement is better for them. We usually have that conversation with them, and we get people who are willing to work in the AV counting board, so that we can always fall back on that. When we staff a precinct, it's not just let's take a list of 10 people and put them in a location. We have to look at different things. We have to look at their skills, if they're able to use the computer. We try to keep them close to home, and we have to have both parties represented in each precinct, because a lot of the tasks that are done in the precincts and in the AV counting board require the presence of people from 2 different parties. So we need to make sure that our staffing includes a skill, sufficient people with the right skills, and making sure that we have both parties represented to get the tasks that need to get done. So it's a big job. The staffing alone, Jim in my office is the one who does the staffing. If anyone does want to volunteer to get involved, call 248-451-4848 and ask for Jim Allen. Again, it's 248-451-4848 and ask for Jim. But it's a daunting task that Jim has in terms of playing dominoes, because when he has one person drop out, it's not just as simple as I'm going to replace one person. He has to look at the skills in the party and the location and do the best he can of staffing. And I also want to remind you that we, from a staffing perspective, on election day, we swell up to an additional 250 to 350 people. So it's a pretty significant size staff we're working at. We double town hall staff on election day. So our payroll person also takes time to get those checks issued, because she's got to do a payroll that's twice as big for that, for just election work. It's a big undertaking to run an election.
I'm telling you, you're listening to the Oakland County Megacast on 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Debbie Binder, the West Bloomfield Township Clerk, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Debbie, we have you on the show quite often, and I always learn something new every time you are on. And I will say, being sequestered all day without your phone, that is a challenge. I won't be signing up, Tyler.
Oh, no.
You know what, though? It's a challenge, but it's also so rewarding that we have people who come back year after year, and they really, really love it. I receive requests right after August from people who want to be with the same people on their team. They had the best day. They enjoyed working with their teammates. So it's kind of going back to learning how to interact with other people. So, I really did not have a lot of complaints from the people who were in there about being away from their phones. They managed to interact really nicely with each other, built new friendships, new relationships. And again, I had to have within the 3 days after the election, I had at least a dozen emails from people telling me who they wanted to work with again. So they do get, there's a camaraderie, there's a commitment, and there's an engagement that they're getting out of it, and reinforced socially that makes it worth it. They do come back. They complain. They complain a lot more about the long day, and it is a long day, but they all come back and do enjoy the experience.
It might be nice to be without your phone for a day. Take a break. Debbie, anything that we didn't talk about? I feel like we covered everything under the moon, but anything we didn't talk about that you want to add before we let you go?
I would say my two parting thoughts, and one actually is I'm going to divert to our old friend issue, is the census. And we actually had a bump this week, which we haven't had a bump in a while. We're up to 80.5% participation. And we were typically between 119 and 121 in the state in terms of our response rate compared to other municipalities. And we bumped up to 112. So West Bloomfield, you can do it. Respond to your census. 2020census.gov. Be counted, be heard, and bring the money in that's what any federal money that comes to us in representation is based upon. And I know that most of us would rather it's based on as close to 100% of our population as can be. So 80% is definitely improvement, but I'd like to see us continue responding and get us up to that 100% participation rate. And then the last takeaway is just to really encourage people to think for this election, try to do everything early. Try to submit that ballot early. If you can bring it back to Town Hall and use one of our drop boxes on the east or west side of Town Hall, that would be preferable. But if you can't, make sure you mail it with sufficient time for that ballot to get sent back here. And if you need to register, the same thing. Please try to do it early. I think that's the message this year is don't delay. Try to make everything you do, early and ahead of time. This is not a year to procrastinate, because if you procrastinate, it's not even just selfish that it makes our life easier. It makes your life easier, because you will encounter more lines and more delays if you wait till last minute. So I am just trying to get that word out. Please try to participate, whatever your level is, and make sure that you're ahead of the game.
Debbie, real quick before we let you go, back to the census. I know that you can do it online. It takes, it's less than 5 minutes. But if I don't have my census card with the information, can you just go on to fill it out?
You can just go to 2020census.gov, and there's a button. I can't remember what it says. I think it says respond. And you just go to that, press that button, and it walks you through putting your address in and all of it takes less than 5 minutes. I think it's 9 questions, and you're done. You can also, there's a phone number. I don't have the phone number right here, but there's a phone number to call your census in. So there are a lot of ways to respond. They do have people in the field taking account, but they're not going to probably hit every home. So if you can self-respond, that will make sure that you're counted, as well as keep somebody from coming to your door. It's really, again, like you said, it's as easy as can be. It takes minutes to respond online, or get the phone number. If you just search 2020 census phone number, do a Google search, you'll get the phone number, call in, and just be counted. It's really important. Our federal funding and our representation all depend on that accurate count. And it is, we've talked before that count is for the next 10 years. So having as accurate of a count affects you for a long period of time. It's not just, okay, we'll do it again next year. This is a 10-year count. So please make sure that every one of us is counted in West Bloomfield. And when we have any kind of a disaster, or right now we're dealing with a lot of grant money coming in from federal government pertaining to COVID. And all of that money coming in is based on our census count and our population. A lot of things for voting that we're getting in are based on your population. So making sure that we have the most accurate representation of our population is important. And as nice as it was to see an 8 at the beginning of that number, I'd like to see a 9. And they did move the deadline up a month. So now the deadline is the end of September, which means we've got to get cracking. We've got to get people who have not responded. Please take a moment now and go to the website, or call in, or if you do have your questionnaire, send it in. Let's get as close to 100% count as we can. We are seeing firsthand how important those numbers are, and the money that we're getting back for COVID-related expenses, and a lot of those COVID-related expenses directly affect elections. Our election costs have increased hugely. Just the postage on our absentee voting, and we have been able to secure, with the help of federal government and with the help of our county government, who has been extremely involved and extremely helpful. They have provided many assets and many resources for us to use to help with the election process, and all of that is based on our census count. So again, I probably should go out of my way to thank what the county has done to make, Commissioner Gershenson speaks at every meeting, and I know she has spoken with you as well. The County Board of Commissioners has gone out of their way to make sure that the local clerks' voices are heard, and that they're doing the best that they can to help make sure we have the resources needed to meet this challenge that we are meeting with this election. And so all of that is based on our registered voter numbers, which are over 54,000, and our census count. So please, the more that everybody can get involved, the more they're able to do for us and make it easier. So I would like to thank all of those people who are involved in making sure we have the resources, as well as Civic Center TV, who anytime I've called and said we have a project we need to do to get the word out, you have been more than available. So I appreciate everything everybody is doing for us to help and meet the challenge of what is coming in November, which we all know is going to be a large election with a large turnout. And you're going to see some of the vitriol from the country, spilling into the election. So we're hoping to keep our elections safe and secure, and everybody having the opportunity to have their voice heard.
Debbie Binder, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us on the Megacast and update everyone with everything that is going on out of your office.
Thank you both for your time. I appreciate everything you do.
This is the Oakland County Megacast. Take a few minutes, fill out the census, support your local community. That money is important. It really is extremely easy. It takes just a couple of minutes to fill out that form. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. This is, you're listening to 89.3, 88.1.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonae Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe. You can catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon on CivicCenterTV.com, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you have cable, if you're one of the people that still has cable, you can check us out on Channel 15 on Comcast and Channel 99 on AT&T. We are here Monday through Friday bringing you longer, in-depth interviews with newsmakers throughout Oakland County and beyond. We work each and every day to also keep you up to date with everything that is happening in our communities with COVID-19, because it continues to change daily. 6 months into this, 6 months we are into this, and it is still changing. One good thing that is happening right now, visitation is going to be expanded at nursing homes to allow outdoor visits starting next week. That's according to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The director did sign the order this week So it's going to be impacting residents in several types of long-term care facilities, including nursing homes, independent living facilities, and assisted living facilities. Visitors had been severely restricted, if not barred altogether, at many of these places all throughout COVID-19. This has been a really hard time for so many families with their loved ones in nursing homes and not having that physical visitation. It's been hard on their loved one as well as the family members as well.
Yeah, and this is good news for them because the family members have certainly been worried about their loved ones who have been in nursing homes where COVID-19 has been rampant in the state of Michigan, and those in the nursing homes have been wanting to interact with their families for 6+ months here in the state of Michigan and haven't been able to do so because those facilities have been so locked down to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So allowing them outdoor visitation while it's still relatively nice outside is a great step forward and fantastic news for both the nursing home patients and their families alike.
Tuition free for frontline workers. About 625,000 frontline workers are eligible for tuition free college under a program created by the governor this week. It's called Futures for Frontliners. $24 million program is going to be financed through the Federal CARES Act, and it's going to help people obtain certificates, associate degrees, and bachelor's degree. Now, to be eligible, the individual has to be a Michigan resident and had to have worked in an essential industry outside of their home from April until June. And you also can't have already gained an associate or a bachelor's degree. Could be a good time for many of these frontline workers, which includes grocery store workers. This could be a good time and a good opportunity to even possibly make a career change.
Yeah, and it gives them that flexibility to decide what they want to do with their life, whether it be if they want to advance themselves in their career on the front lines in the medical side, or if they enjoy work, or if they're working in more of a retail or a grocery store side, and they enjoy the business of that, and they want to pursue a business degree and haven't otherwise been able to do so, or they have other interests or want to go into skilled trades or get a certification. This provides them the means to do that maybe they didn't have before, maybe they did have before but didn't have the motivation to do, and it's a great thank you from our state to those who have been working so hard and so diligently on the front lines over the course of this pandemic from day one.
Yeah, especially skilled trades right now.
Yes.
They need people desperately. So this could be a good opportunity. Again, it's a show of gratitude for all that you have done for our state and for the country during this time. Hey, also on CivicCenterTV.com, it's Friday, so I wanted to go ahead and just bring you up to speed with the latest numbers on the coronavirus cases. Michigan lost 17 more people to the virus, and 924 more people have tested positive for COVID-19. That's the latest from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. 9 of those deaths were found in a regular records review. And the state totals now 6,569 confirmed deaths, 109,519 confirmed cases. Some good news, though, the state's positivity rate, 3.06%. So the number is going down. The governor said yesterday roughly 30,000 people in the state of Michigan are being tested daily for COVID-19. That number, 3.06%. We need to get it below 3% in order to move into phase 5.
Yeah, we're getting really close, and the recent ramping up of taking serious the precautions that are in place that happened after Memorial Day and happened after the 4th of July, where we saw some spikes, was significant, and I think it's played a great role in people reducing the number of new cases we're seeing, the number of deaths we're seeing, and keeping that positivity rate slowly but surely decreasing to right around 3%, really, really close to 3%, and hopefully sooner rather than later, getting us below that 3% benchmark so that we can move into phase 5 of the Michigan Safe Start Plan.
So you'll find that information over on CivicCenterTV.com. Right now, we want to go ahead and we're heading to Troy virtually, that is. We're going to check in now. Ethan Baker, the mayor of our fine city, Troy, joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday indeed. How are you both?
Wonderful.
We're good. We're making it. It's like it's fall time already.
What a shock to our systems, right? I can't believe how quickly it turned. But I guess it's Michigan. We're used to it. But it's been such a warm summer. It's nice to have some cool days too, I guess.
I know, we've been so lucky. So speaking about the weather change, are you concerned about the possibility of increased cases as the weather gets colder and more people are forced indoors?
Yeah, sure. I guess all of us are, right? I mean, typically we start cold and flu season as the weather changes. So I expect that there will be more people that will get sick. And certainly as we move indoors and can't, spend all those nice hours out in the sun, out in the parks, outdoor dining, of course, is going to become an issue as the weather changes. There's going to be more people close together. So I think it'd be very curious to see if people then are more likely to not have the social gatherings because they have to be inside, or if they're going to do it anyway. I mean, we'll see over time. But, I think when I look around in Troy, I see people being very responsible. They're very, very careful about mask wearing, social distancing when they can. And obviously there are outliers in all of those. But the people are cautious and they're careful, and I expect them to be as we progress into the fall.
So, Mayor, how are things going for the businesses there in the city of Troy, which is the largest city here in Oakland County? Has business been picking up for them? What are you seeing and hearing from the patrons?
There's definitely an uptick in business. People are getting back to work. Restaurants are tending to be a little busier than they were, say, when they first were allowed to reopen. But you still have, Troy's Troy's normal population is 85, 86,000 residents. But during the day, during the week, it goes up to somewhere around 160,000, which means all those people are coming into work. And when they're not coming into our office buildings now, that's going to have a big effect on our restaurants, on our retail. And we're definitely experiencing that in the city of Troy. And, I don't know when we'll see our office buildings filled back up, which will then allow our restaurants to be filled back up. And that concerns me more than anything. You hear about GM, who's had a lot of their salary workers are going to work from home until June of next year. I hope that's not the case for a lot of employees in the city of Troy, because we need the bodies to come into our city. We need people to safely use our restaurants, use our retail, and then that keeps a big part of our economy going here.
Ethan Baker joining us from the city of Troy here on the Oakland County Megacast. Ethan, we also talked to Debbie Binder, the West Bloomfield Township Clerk, just before we spoke to you today, as West Bloomfield's preparing, like all other municipalities in Michigan and throughout the country, for this upcoming election. What extra efforts are being taken in the city of Troy to help assist residents with an expected doubling, really, of absent voter turnout and overall turnout being increased in the November election?
Absolutely. So we just had our August primary where we implemented some new systems, but the city of Troy is very well prepared for this. We have invested the time, money, and resources into making sure that those who want to vote can vote safely, whether it be a mail, whether it be dropping off their ballots, or in the polls in person on November 3rd. So we have done a number of things, and if I could just tick off a couple of them right now, I'd really appreciate it. We've got 4 big brand new drop boxes, 2 of them at our City Hall East entrance and West entrance, 1 at our library, 1 at our community center, which will be checked, they're locked of course, and checked daily by the city clerk's office to gather any new ballots, any absentee ballot applications, or anything relating to the elections. We have set up a number of drive-through clerk options, which is very unique, and I think something very special that we're doing, because there are a certain amount of the population who is still just not comfortable even really getting out of the car or going into a building. So we've set up, and it worked in the August primary, and now I've got a few dates here, a drive-through clerk's office where you can stay in your car and drive through our city hall parking lot and do everything you need to do with the city clerk's office, whether that's registering to vote, whether that's picking up an absentee ballot, whether that's then taking that ballot and then sitting in your car voting and then running it back through the line in a drop box, or to handing it directly to a person. But we've got drive-through clerk hours. The first actually is the AV ballot pickup, which is our ballots will be mailed in the city of Troy if you've already requested a ballot September 30th. But on Saturday and Sunday, September 26th and 27th, between 12 and 4 p.m., you can go to the City Hall, the city clerks, and stay in your car, and they'll do a drive-through, and you can actually get your ballot right there in person, so you don't have to worry about any of the concerns with the Postal Service. And of course, safety and security requirements are in place. You have to show your ballot ID. It has to be you. You can't pick up a ballot for a spouse or a child or a parent. I guess it wouldn't be a child. It would be an 18-year-old child at least. But the city clerks will be verifying signatures and making sure that only people who are supposed to get their ballots are going to get their ballots. They can't go to anybody else. But we've got those dates in September. We've got October 14th, 21st, 24th, 30th, and the 31st also set up right now as drive-through clerk hours. And finally, I don't want to discourage people from actually going to the polls and voting on November 3rd. All 31 of our precincts will be open. And if you're at a lower risk, if you feel safe enough to do that, please know that our city staff and our volunteers will be there, properly social distance, disinfecting, cleaning, making sure you have a safe place to vote on election day as well. So, I mean, we've done a lot in Troy to make sure people who want to vote can vote and can do so safely and securely.
I'm a person, I like to go to the polls to get my sticker and feed my ballot in myself just to make sure it's all good. Who came up with the drive-through clerk office or hours? Because that's awesome. And do you think it will continue post-pandemic?
It's a good question if it will continue, but our city clerk, Aileen Dixon, has been with us for quite a while, and she does an excellent job. She's very innovative, very dialed in with other clerks in the state. She's just really on top of it and comes up with these great ideas. And I don't know if that'll stick. I have a feeling it could actually stick post-pandemic because, as we know, in 2018, we passed the no reason absentee voting anyway. So there was already going to be an increase in these absentee ballots. Whether there'll be as many hours or as many opportunities to have drive-through balloting in a post-pandemic Troy, I don't know. But I would definitely like to see that continue. I think people are very comfortable and used to staying in their cars. Look at drive-thrus around anywhere, and they're always full of cars. So people are familiar and comfortable with that setup, and I think it could be a good thing moving forward as well.
So can we shift the conversation just a little bit and look at the budget? Are you anticipating a big shortfall going into your next budget year? Well,
so our budget started July 1st. So we're on a July to the June 30th budget. And we had already locked in our property tax values for 2020 to 2021, which means that, and that's the bulk of our budget and our resources, our revenue that we receive. So we're actually, this next upcoming fiscal year, we're mostly fine, on track with where we've always been. The unknowns for us still remain what kind of state shared revenue we'll get coming out of Lansing and any Act 51 dollars for our roads. Those are, we haven't got those numbers from Lansing yet, and obviously the state is suffering financially as well. So we don't know exactly where we'll come out with that. We've got a very, very hefty rainy day fund in the city of Troy. Previous councils and city administration had made sure that we had a good policy in place post the 2008 recession to make sure that if something major were to happen, we'd have good reserves, and we do here in Troy. So even with the shortfalls coming out of Lansing that we expect in the next year, we'll be able to cover those just fine, and you really won't see a difference in city services or spending in the city of Troy this next year. If we were to have an extended recession where property values were to drop, that could then affect our property tax revenues. Then in a year past that, 2 to 3 years from now, we could see some difficulties in Troy. Although as of right now, it doesn't look like property taxes or property values are dropping, and it looks like we're having an economic recovery. So we should be, as of now, in good shape. We'll just have to see where it all plays out.
Mayor Ethan Baker with us from the city of Troy. Mayor Baker, earlier on, you talked to us about the uptick in business, but that in the city, but that you're expecting a little bit of a leveling effect as the cold months approach. A lot of municipalities locally provided some additional means, whether it be street space or sidewalk space for expansion outdoors of a lot of businesses, particularly restaurants and retail. Have there been any discussions about what the city may be able to do to help these businesses in a similar fashion in the winter months, albeit with more weather constraints in place?
Absolutely. So we've looked at what we can do. We've got plenty of restaurants that are using outdoor dining right now. Most of our restaurants, we're different than a city like Birmingham, who has a very compact central downtown where all of their restaurants are kind of together in the same place, and they use city parking spaces for outdoor dining in the summer months anyway. Our restaurants in Troy tend to have their outdoor dining space on private property, whether that's parking lot space or their own property that they own. So the city doesn't need to get too involved in something like that. However, we have looked at what Birmingham's doing. They're allowing additional outdoor seating through the winter months on a temporary basis because of COVID that will allow even for some partial enclosures and some heat lamps and such. City of Troy is also looking at doing that as well. I think we can actually do it without doing a zoning or ordinance change. It can be done administratively, but we've got that in process because I think there are a fair amount of restaurants in the city of Troy who would take advantage of something like that. So we're working with the local restaurants who may be interested in that. We're working with city administration to come up with a good plan for that. But that is the big concern for everybody. If indoor dining capacity rates are only at 50%, I don't think a lot of these restaurants can survive through the winter months without having some kind of outdoor option as well. And I heard you talking just before I came on about getting into phase 5. If we can get there, we can have increased indoor dining capacity as well. But until we get there, I really strongly feel we have to do something to help the restaurants and the retail who utilize outdoor services.
Mayor of Troy, Ethan Baker with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. When we're looking at COVID-19 in the beginning, we had a lot of issues with getting supplies. Are you still finding that, or has the supply chain opened up for you and the staff and the employees there in the city of Troy?
I don't have those difficulties any longer. Our first responders have plenty PPE. City employees who need them have them. Even, Beaumont is here in Troy. I understand that they're doing just fine with their PPE. So I think that is an issue of the past, at least it is for our region or for our city. And which, is a good thing. And you see now, there's masks for sale at grocery stores again. There's sanitizer again. A lot of those things that were missing for so long are back in pretty regular force. So I think we're through the PPE hurdle, assuming we don't have a major spike again. And I'd like to think that the supply chain above and beyond Troy has worked through some of those issues so they're prepared for something big if they needed to again.
Mayor, if you have extra disinfectant spray, we'll take some here for the studio. I always have the hardest time finding some. I got a can last week and I was excited. I felt like I hit the lotto.
Yeah, I should say that, the Lysol sprays, those are still kind of hard to find. The Clorox wipes, I think, are difficult. But, there's good old soap and water can take care of a lot of germs and bacteria as well. Don't forget that. I know it's not as easy, but we can still clean without having to have a handy-dandy canister or something.
That is a good point. That is a good point. So how are other things going in Troy? What about new businesses and construction? Any new projects that are on the forefront?
We have a ton of new development, new construction happening in Troy still. I took a temporary, pause during those early initial months of the shutdown, but we've got new hotels coming to Troy. We've got actually a Buddy's Pizza is coming to Troy this fall. It looks like they're almost done with their build out. I've got luxury apartments being built. We've got a 7-story luxury apartment building with 280 units being built at Crooks and Big Beaver and that major development there that really are going to change our skyline in Troy, really going to change the feel and getting people walking around the Big Beaver corridor, taking advantage of those restaurants and the retail, which is going to be a great addition as well. So I feel very good about the continued development in Troy. You hear a lot from residents in Troy about how we are overdeveloped as it is. And there is a certain truth to that for sure. We have to be very mindful of the green space that we want to keep and that we have. And so we don't let that go away. But as a reminder, redevelopment and infill development is what keeps the city growing and evolving and allows us to have the things that we need when we need, new libraries or when we need additional services. So our development is strong. Businesses are definitely moving in here. Obviously some have suffered, but I get emails and notifications from other people who say, hey, I just got a new 100-employee tenant in my building. I just want to let you know. That kind of stuff is great for the city of Troy. It's great for the residents of Troy, and it keeps us going.
Mayor, how are things at City Hall? Are you back open to the public, or is it by appointment only?
City Hall is still pretty much by appointment only. And we found that we really got into a good groove with that early on. When we actually, first of all, we didn't even take appointments. We were just having call City Hall, and you could do almost anything over the phone or online, it seemed. As we brought some employees back into City Hall, we're still doing it by appointment only. There are still some people, we had our property taxes are due right now. Some prefer to pay in person. I understand that and respect that. Certainly you can mail them. Certainly you can put them in a drop box, but some people feel comfort of coming in and getting a receipt. And so we have that service available. Our city clerk's office has been operating pretty much at full staff because of the August election and now the November election. But we're still by appointment only for the most part, and it's working. But we are scaling things back up, and there's more employees back in the building, and we'll get back to normal as soon as we feel that it's absolutely necessary to. But until now, we haven't had the absolute need to do so on a normal basis yet.
Ethan Baker, the mayor of the fine city of Troy. And before we let you go, I have to ask about Somerset.
I was waiting. I didn't know when you were going to ask.
I'm a shopper, I will say. I've been in there recently, and it seems like business is picking back up for a lot of the stores, but we are also seeing some stores shut their doors.
For sure. Somerset, obviously, I'm partial. I think they've done a great job of providing a safe and clean atmosphere for people to shop. And it's been, it's a draw for people anyway. But you see nationally, even some of the bigger stores or bigger brand names are closing. So that's going to affect Somerset as well. And we do have some that aren't going to make it. And, we have others that are moving in. So that's a cycle a little bit. It's hard to see people lose their jobs at Somerset or lose the businesses that they've worked for. But it is part of the economy, and Somerset seems to be doing pretty well, and I think it always will.
Yeah, the restaurants have definitely seemed to be busy over there at Somerset. So, Mr. Mayor, anything that we didn't touch on that you want to get out to our listeners and our viewers?
Well, today is 9/11. I'm sure it's been said 100 times already today, but I really want everyone to never forget, and it's important. I have 3 young kids who were born after 9/11, and I think it's important for us and our generation to make sure the younger generation knows what 9/11 was about, what happened. And I like to tell my kids, who are getting a little older now, but some of it's very scary, obviously, so you have to be careful with the children. But I always like to talk about the first responders who were running into the buildings when everybody else was running out, because that was the kind of good service they were doing, and they were there to help people. And I think it's important to remember and never forget those first responders who sacrificed their lives to try to save others, and that's very, 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 very important. And 19 years, I can't believe it's been that long. But about 9/11, the other semi-interesting fact, if you can call it that, is that Troy, the city of Troy, a police officer in Troy lost his life on September 11th, 2001, but he was here in Troy. Officer Charles Mulvihill, he was out on a service call and had a heart attack and passed away. So I always remember that, when you talk about 9/11 as the national scene, and what happened in New York, what happened in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the Pentagon, but there's real local stories for everybody too. And for the Mulvihill family, they lost Officer Mulvihill on that day as well. So 9/11 is always a day to be remembered here in Troy and the nation, and I hope that we truly do never forget.
Yeah, I think it's hard this year, too, because we're not able to have those memorial services that we typically are used to having here throughout the country. I know I've attended a lot here locally as well. So thank you, though, for sharing that. And it's always a good reminder. As we talked about earlier, Tyler was young. He was in first grade. And it's like you said, when we're older, we remember that day and we feel those feelings. And the one thing that came out of 9/11 was a lot of love and unity. So maybe we can get back to that right now, right?
Well, you're so right. You put words in my mouth, or you took the words right out of my mouth. I just posted on my social media a little bit before this about how the other important lesson of that is how unified we were as a country right after that. And my kids are growing up in such a divisive and a partisan and, ugly time in many ways, right? And I always try to tell them, look, it doesn't always have to be like that, and it won't always be like that. So we can unify and come together, and we will again. It's just, times are tough sometimes in these things, and we'll get through that and come back stronger. And I think we can unify again when necessary, which is another important lesson.
Definitely. Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us on the Oakland County Megacast.
Absolutely. It was great to talk to you both.
Thank you for your time. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to check in with a local student over at Oakland University. He is also the editor of the paper, so we'll see how things are going over at Oakland U.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Thank you for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We are just about to wrap up the show. We got about 20 minutes left here, and we are going to bring in Michael Pierce. He is the editor-in-chief over at the Oakland Post at Oakland University. Michael, thank you for being with us here on the Megacast.
Hello.
Are you back in school now, and do you have any actual classes in person?
Yes, I am. Right now I'm actually at the campus radio station where I also work. I had one in-person meeting for one class, the only in-person meeting I'll have all semester, so now it's all online.
What's it like?
It's different. I don't mind it personally because I work a lot, so it allows me to work classes more into my schedule when I want to, but I know a lot of people are having trouble with it, especially those that have one in-person class, and they live 45 minutes away or 30 minutes away, and they have to make the trip for work or class when they would be living on campus, but it just doesn't make financial sense right now.
Michael Pierce, you are also the editor-in-chief of the Oakland Post, the school newspaper there. What's this been like for you to have to put out a paper in the middle of a pandemic?
At first, it was really hard. There were a numerous amount of reasons why, but number one, restricted building hours. We don't have a lot of people that can come in. We don't even have the room for a lot of people to come in. But slowly but surely, it's getting better as we hire more people and more people are around campus naturally. The summer was a little tough because of that. But during the school year, it's starting to pick up. And honestly, people are just looking to get back to their normal lives at this point to some extent. So we're getting a lot more people involved and wanting to do stuff and work and, boost their resumes for the future when eventually, hopefully, they'll be able to get jobs without a pandemic happening.
Michael Pierce joining us. He is the editor-in-chief of the Oakland Post with us on the Oakland County Megacast. The school year is off to its start. Some people are on campus, some off campus, as is normal. Classes, some virtual, some are not. What are you hearing, and what are your other student journalists hearing from the students of Oakland University in terms of their experiences, their feelings so far as this unprecedented school year is underway?
I think it really depends on the person, because I have a lot of people who are here on campus who are kind of enjoying things, I would say, the way that they are, because, if they live on campus, they have all this free time to, focus on what they want and structure their schedule the way they want. On the other hand, you have people who are really against it because everyone learns differently, and online learning is tough for some people, and not being able to see that person face to face. Someone recently brought up a good point to me. It was that when you see your professor and you see your classmates, you have more accountability for doing that work and not letting that professor down, honestly. But when you never see their face, you never hear their voice, and they don't really even know you, sometimes it can be difficult to be like, well, I don't want to let this person down, because it's just, you might know what they look like or sound like a little bit, but you don't have really as much of a personal relationship. So some people struggle with slacking a little more in that aspect.
How are the students handling getting tested? And I believe Oakland University has like a sticker that's taking your temperature and things of that nature. What is the feedback from students? Do they like it, or do they think it's an invasion of privacy?
I'm not sure if the bio buttons have reached campus yet. I haven't heard anything about them reaching that, but they do have an online screening where you have to fill out questions. You have to agree to wear your mask, social distance, etc., stay clean, and you will get a green or a red little notification in your My Sale website, which is the university's portal for everything. And they're doing that right now. The buttons, I'm not sure about yet, but I think that it will be very mixed reactions, because on one hand, you don't have to fill out this daily form anymore. It just takes care of it. And if you're healthy, I mean, you have nothing to worry about. But some people are still concerned about people having their data and knowing, their health, whatever. But in reality, it doesn't track you. It doesn't harvest your data and send it anywhere. It's literally just, if you match a symptom, Graham Health Center gets a green or a red light, and then they will call you. That's it. They don't know what your temperature is. They don't know anything about that. They just know you have a symptom, so we're going to contact you and move forward from there. So once they become more readily available, I think I might do it, because filling out the form every day is a lot easier to just have it do it for me on my chest. But some people are definitely worried about the privacy aspect.
One thing about journalism is it typically requires you to interact with other people. How have you had to make an adjustment in being the editor of the paper and trying to navigate this new world?
I mean, I feel like it leaves us less room to put things off, and we really need to stay on top of things, because there's inevitably that lag of texting, emailing someone, asking to talk to them, and then setting up a time, and then interviewing them, recording it, transcribing it, everything like that. It just adds more steps to the process. So what I found that works really well for me is just at the very beginning of the week, planning everything out as much as I can and making those arrangements as fast as I can, so that I have enough time to really get the most out of it. And as an editor, I have a lot of people working remotely, so inevitably we run into technical difficulties. Some people have different versions of Adobe Suite than others. They don't have these fonts, etc. So it's like it adds a little bit more time in terms of sending things digitally from different locations, and then having these issues and having to troubleshoot them.
Michael Pierce with us on the Oakland County Megacast, joining us today. He is the editor-in-chief of the Oakland Post, which is the student newspaper over at Oakland University. Michael, how much more important has your role and your fellow student colleagues' role with the Oakland Post been now that we're in this pandemic? I mean, earlier on in the spring and now, of course, in the fall, under these unprecedented times, how has your role become more important as you continue to tell the stories of what's going on campus at Oakland University?
I think in the spring, the previous staff, of which I was still on, but I had a lesser role, did a great job of getting fast, accurate news out, and they really informed a lot of people that we're just looking for answers. And now I think that there's less breaking news every second. Our job is more to inform people of what their options are and what things might be happening, important things that they could see coming. Because a lot of it right now is we're sort of in a middle area where in the spring, it was everything's happening right now. We need to react. We need to figure out what's happening. Now we're in a middle area of things might happen. So we need to figure out what might happen and how that might affect students. So our job is a lot of just continuing to communicate with administration and making sure that any changes they are thinking of or might be making soon are communicated effectively to the students, because a lot of the time students feel like they could be left in the dark if administration makes a change and they didn't receive any prior warning about it. So that's what we're trying to do, is just stay ahead of things and tell people, you know, a lot of people were concerned about the cost of online classes. And one of our articles that we wrote was outlining the options that they have to alleviate some of the financial burdens of still paying full tuition for online classes. The CARES Act, certain scholarships, stuff like that, that they can do to sort of help themselves that they might not have known about before.
Yeah, because do you find that it's harder to get a hold of some of the people in the administration because are they remote as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that most of them are remote or they have less in-person hours. I've had one in-person interview with administration this entire summer, and of course we were 6 feet apart, masks on, everything. But I mean, a lot of them are remote, and then a lot of them have even busier schedules than before, because on top of doing all of their administration duties that they usually do, they have an entire pandemic to figure out and navigate through. So it becomes, their schedule becomes even more jam-packed. I know President Peskovitz is probably doing an interview every 40 minutes. So we have to figure out how to get into their busy schedule to do our jobs too. And it takes a lot of planning and patience and willing to, just willing to wait a little bit, which wasn't always as big of a deal before because everyone was on campus and more easily accessible. And there wasn't this pandemic to figure out.
Right. They are a little busy right now, having to come up with so many different plans. Like if this happens, then we need to do this, or this happens. So, Michael, one of the things on so many college campuses, as the students are returning, outbreaks of the virus. Are you concerned about that? And how are you and your staff planning to handle addressing that in the paper?
I can't help but be a little bit concerned because, of course, it's a possibility when a lot of people come back to a certain area. Regardless of how safe they are, there's people who will be a little less safe, and there are people who might come to campus for a day to visit someone they know. They will follow the rules, but they could be asymptomatic and transmit something. And you see what's happening at other colleges too, like Michigan State. So it's natural to be a little bit worried. I would say I am a tiny bit, but I feel like our university has done a pretty good job of figuring things out and trying to prevent it a lot better than I would say places like CMU are doing. But as the newspaper, our job is to just basically stand by and wait for either something big to happen or nothing big to happen. And either way, that's something that we will cover. And if things get shut down again and go entirely remote again, the lucky thing is about our job is that most of us right now, at least who are writing and everything, are doing it at least partially remotely. So, and we did it this past summer too, so we know how to handle this at this point. It's a little more difficult, but we know how to handle it.
So looking at your profile, it seems as if you are a big sports person. It looks like you want to go into sports. So what is it like for you on campus and without organized sports? How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, it's tough. I'm not the sports editor anymore. I was for the last 2 years, but I still like to write about it. So it's a little disheartening to not have fall sports, but what I'm going through is nothing compared to what the athletes are going through, because some of them lose parts of their season. They might lose a fall competitive season if they're a spring athlete, but that fall competitive season really helps them prepare for the spring, the Horizon League one that's more important to them. So even if they're not directly losing their season or their season is directly pushed to the spring, they still are losing something. So me, as someone who just likes to watch sports and cover them, it doesn't matter how I'm affected by it. But I've been talking to a few athletes, a few coaches every week, and a lot of them seem to have a great attitude about it. A lot of them understand that it's bigger than sports, even for them, even though that's why they're at college somewhat, and, that's their job if they're a coach. They still understand that it's bigger than sports. And, I think you have to commend that, because especially with college athletes, this might be the last time they play sports, and it's being really affected by the pandemic, but they're still taking it in stride, and they're still just optimistic and hopeful, and they're still doing their best to get through everything. So it's interesting for sure to not have fall sports, soccer, everything like that. I mean, you see the basketball players practicing outside in the apartment's blacktop court because they can't get in the arena right now. So it's different.
Michael Pierce with us. He's the editor-in-chief at the Oakland Post, a student paper at Oakland University, with us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Michael, just a few more minutes with you before we got to let you go today for the end of the show. Anything else that you'd like to touch on that we haven't spoken about regarding Oakland University or the operations of the Oakland Post, or anything else that you think would be interesting for our audience to know?
Yeah, I just think that the Oakland Post is lucky. I would say we're lucky because we do have an advisor, Gary Gilbert, who has years of experience in the professional field, and his wife, also Holly Gilbert, has years of experience in the professional field and teaching. So we are led by some really great people, and without them, we would be like just in deep water. we would be drowning. So I just wanted to make that be known that they are incredible people, and the world of Oakland University and journalism is better because of them.
So, Michael, I know you said that you're in the radio station there. Do you also work at the radio station? What do you do?
Yes, I'm the sports director at the radio station. My job before the year was to broadcast sporting events. Not happening right now. So I'm still working on producing weekly radio shows about sports because there is still stuff to talk about. There is still some Oakland stuff to talk about because there's still a bunch of athletes who are getting ready to compete, and there's some professional sports going on right now. So we still have content. I still have something to do. I would hope to call some games, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it. But radio station's also doing really well here too.
So what year are you? When do you graduate?
I'm a senior. I'll be graduating in, I guess, early May of 2021.
So do you think going through this is going to help you get a job more so post graduation?
I mean, it really depends on how you look at it. I mean, in one hand, I can say I successfully produced issues throughout an incredibly challenging time. Another aspect is my senior year is a little bit different in terms of experience, and there are some things that I will not have that I would have had the pandemic not have hit. I would be broadcasting more games on the radio or on social media and everything. So that's stuff that I sort of lose out on, but I feel like in the end it is a net positive to have worked through this, because it's a lot of adversity. It's a lot of just having strong communication skills, and even though it might take some things away from my experience, overall it's a net positive because I gained that adversity experience, and I'm still alive and breathing today. So I can't be too upset about it. I can't think of it too much as a negative.
Well, we are all learning things as well. So, Michael Pierce, good luck to you. We wish you the best, and definitely good luck post-college as well. I hope that you continue to follow your dream and your passion.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Michael Pierce with us on the Oakland County Megacast. He's the editor-in-chief, Oakland Post. They're online, so you can always go online and check out some of their articles and the work that they're doing over there at Oakland University. They have some good articles. I was checking it out earlier, Tyler, that expands beyond Oakland University, but Oakland University is an important part of our entire community, so they help all of us, whether or not you go to school there or you teach there. They have a lot going on at the university that impacts us as a community.
Yeah, they do. They do a lot in our community. They're highly active in the community, and they do great work over there at the Oakland Post, keeping the student body and the faculty and families and alumni of Oakland University informed about what's going on at Oakland University, but also do a great job at analyzing and reporting on the rest of the world as well.
So I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe. We have just about 30 seconds left here on the Oakland County Megacast. Want to give a huge shout out to the owner over at M1 Concourse, so you can check out that interview. We'll have it up a little bit later here on the Megacast on CivicCenterTV.com. Thank you, Debbie Binder and the staff over at the West Bloomfield Township Clerk's office for also having us on their Facebook page today. And the Mayor of Troy, always great having Ethan Baker with us on the Megacast. I'm going to, let's wrap things up because it's Friday. Tyler, it's time to start the weekend. Jake, Larry, thank you for all your hard work this week as we've had to pivot, as they like to say. Happy Friday, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy.